Today we shall continue to study the experiments made in architecture during the Mughal period. As explained earlier by me, the Mughal architecture evolved out of various kinds of experiments of both stone, marble, colored stones, as well as of style and other aspects. Here in case we would see what are the changes made from the period of Akbar to those of Jahangir, Shah Jahan and finally Aurangzeb. But before we go to the period of Jahangir, I would just mention the remaining portion of Fatehpur Sikri, which we almost ended last time, that in recent excavations in Fatehpur Sikri, a large palace complex had been found near the Hathi Pole. There were 28 rooms, 3 partitions, various kinds of offices and other buildings nearby. This has caused quite a good deal of controversy. One opinion was that this was the Haram Sara or the Zanana Mahal, but this opinion has been rejected by most of the historians who had pointed out that the Zanana Mahal could not be so near the house of the Daroga, other public building like Samosa Mahal and also the offices. It has now becoming clear that perhaps Shah Jahan wanted to live here and it is for his purpose that this was done. I would end Fatehpur Sikri by giving a quotation inscribed in the Buland Darwaza in Persian, but the original quotation is from Jesus Christ. It said that world is a bridge. If you want to go through, you go, but don't construct a house. Akbar was liberal enough to quote from a Christian speech. We come to Jahangir's period, and we know that Jahangir was far more interested in painting than in architecture. In Jahangir's reign, we see principally 2 mausoleums. The one was at Sikandra near Agra of Akbar, built by Jahangir, completed in 1613, and there are problems in this particular building which I'll mention. Set in a beautiful garden with 4 gates, this huge building of red sandstone has only 1 gate really to enter and exit. The rest of the gates, although arched, are shows merely. This was set up on a huge red stone floor of roughly of 340 feet and giving the show of strength. But the rooms are quite surrounding the whole thing, surrounded by a wall also, and in the midst of a garden, which looks in contrast to that of this red building. The problem is that the upper portion of this particular building was changed by Jahangir at a huge cost of 15 lakh of rupees. Why did he change this upper portion in which he substituted marble dome instead of red sandstone is a mystery. Perhaps this is the result of the mental dispute between the father and the son. The other feature of this building is also unique, that it has 4 marble towers in 4 corners, and this is the first time that the marble tower has been used in all 4 corners in a mausoleum in India. Otherwise, the Sikandra, perhaps the spot was selected by Akbar himself. The Sikandra was in a little bit way continuation of the tomb of Humayun. its middle portion, where the tomb is, has 2 floors and 2 domes, like that of the tomb of Humayun, and the middle floor is more or less empty. It gives a similar feature which could be seen in the tomb of Humayun. The other mausoleum of Jahangir, during the time of Jahangir, was not built by him. It was built by his queen, Nur Jahan, in 1626, 1 year before Jahangir died. This is a unique building in the sense that its gateway, huge gateway, is of red sandstone. Then comes the beautiful garden, the usual Mughal garden of Chaharbagh, with cypress trees on both sides, totally green cypress trees. And then we have the marble, entirely built of marble of the mausoleum. This mausoleum is a departure from the days of Akbar and is a predecessor in a way to that of Taj Mahal. It is the usual mausoleum on the bank of the river, on the other side of the river, so to speak, and it has all the qualities of the other mausoleum as such. There are 2 features in this building which could be seen. One is that the walls are highly ornamented with various kinds of stones and colored stones. This style is called pietra dura, which is an Italian word, and used by the Florentines very much in their works in earlier days. And this pietra dura continues, and this could be seen very easily. The second thing is, apart from the fact that the ornaments are very beautifully done, and it is alleged that Nur Jahan herself has done the ornamentation, design of the ornamentation, and some of her handkerchiefs had this kind of ornamentation, which is of course a romantic legend. But this ornamentation has one feature, is that instead of the stone being colored, the real colored stones are used for the first time. For example, jasper, topaz, cornelians, etc. All the colored and very precious stones were used in the ornamentations, giving it a completely different importance to the whole thing. And this is such a beautifully balanced building. Instead of strength, it shows the balance and the lightness, as if like a pearl, a small pearl there. From this period, we go to that of Shah Jahan. In Shah Jahan's, apart from his changes, the reforms made in the forts, we have the beautiful town of Shahjahanabad, as well as the exquisite Taj Mahal. Shah Jahan ascended in 1627. When he became the emperor, he changed some of the forts at a huge cost. The fort of Agra, the Diwan-i-Am and Diwan-i-Khas, marbles were used profusely. Similarly, in the fort of Ajmer and Lahore, marbles were being used. These changes were made immediately. In 1654, he constructed a mosque in Agra fort called Moti Masjid, which is a beautiful mosque and one of the unique mosques in the Mughal Empire. But his greatest, perhaps, if not one of the greatest, was the construction of Shahjahanabad, the new town. Capital of the Mughal Empire was at Agra, but there were problems in the Agra city. First of all, it was too small for overcrowded people. then the banks of the Jamuna are eating away. So therefore in 1639, Shah Jahan decided to transfer the capital to Delhi on the bank of the Jamuna by constructing a new city. This was completed in 1648, and on 19th April 1648, Shah Jahan entered the Daulat Khana. Now, the Shahjahanabad, the fort palace, was twice as big as that of the fort of Agra. It costs more than 2.5 times than that of Agra itself. Shahjahanabad fort is called in Persian in those days as Qilla Mubarak. And we can see as a tourist now, if we go through from the gate, the principal gate of the Shahjahanabad fort. Since the city has already been discussed, I would not go into that now. There were two principal gates. Actually, there were 4 gates and 2 smaller gates, but 2 principal gates were one in the south and the other in the west of the fort. The one on the west is called Lahore Gate, gate going towards Lahore. And from that gate, if one enters, one comes to a covered passage. This covered passage is for the first time in India done by Shah Jahan, because on both sides of this covered passage there were shops. Actually, there still are the shops. And one goes through the covered passage, comes in front of a square which is called Jilu Khana. On the top of the covered passage, there was a hall which was called Nakkar Khana, that is the music hall. In the Mughal court, the music used to be played in different times, particularly when the Darbar was in session. In that Jilu Khana, or that square, all the amirs and other visitors who were coming on horseback, they would have to get down. On the right hand side was the house of the Killadar. Further on the right, there were the quarters of the servants, etc. And there were other buildings which had been destroyed by English vandalism after 1857. In front of the Jilu Khana, or the square, was the garden, the usual Mughal garden of Chaharbagh. There was a small way through the garden, and one goes straight to a building which is a 1-story building known as Diwan-i-Khas. Diwan-i-Khas has 90 pillars, the front 9 pillars. Sometimes 3 pillars are grouped into one, and it was in red sandstone, a huge hall. One enters the Diwan-i-Khas, and if one goes forward, in those days it was not possible, but now one can go forward and see a kind of a height where the throne, particularly if one wants to say peacock throne, used to be there. And on the side walls of the stones, there were the pietra dura, once again, the ornamented, sculptured walls of various colored stones. Behind this throne, there was a very small gate, and through this small gate, the emperor used to come and used to go out. When one goes out from Diwan-i-Khas, one goes into a garden. This garden is watered, like all Mughal gardens, watered by the canal. As I have said earlier, this canal which brings the water from the Jamuna is called Nahar-i-Behist, the heavenly canal, and it was divided into 2 parts, one going into the city, the other coming into the palace. In the palace, it comes into the northeast side from Shahbuj, from where it was taken up by the Persian whale inside the building. And all the buildings of the Killa Mubarak, or the Red Fort, had the water flowing inside the room, in the middle of the room. One can still see, if one crosses the garden, one finds the living rooms of the Mughal emperor, part of the harem, the Khwabgah, that is the dream room, that is the bedroom of the Mughal emperor, all painted, the walls are all painted, gilt-edged. Now most of course the gold is not there, and tiled and so on and so forth. And in the middle of the room, there were small canals of marble, and through which the water used to come and flow through to the hammam, and from the hammam it used to go back to the Jamuna. So from the Jamuna it used to come to the palace and also to the garden. There were two fountains there, and then through the garden it goes round, and then it comes to this building. Now in these buildings were the closer one to the north was the building of Jahangir Begum, which was a separate building with latticed windows. In the bedroom of the Mughal emperor, there was the latticed windows. There was a veranda, and in the veranda the latticed window is there, Jafri which is called, and the Mughal emperors used to stand there in the early morning for the people who had assembled down below on the bank of the Jamuna to see him. This practice is called Jharokha-i-Darshan, which Aurangzeb stopped after the 10th year. Now, if one goes to the left from the garden, one comes to a building which is nowadays called Rang Mahal. But in earlier days, or in the beginning of the Shah Jahan's period, when it was constructed, this was called Imtiaz Mahal. Some of the historians had called it Mumtaz Mahal, but then it was not known how it was changed to Rang Mahal. There was a lattice door of jasper stone outside, which is not there anymore. But in the inside, it's a huge hall with a fountain, the same water coming through. And in the fountain, the petals are done in such a way, and the water was flowing in such a way that it seems from a distance that the wind is blowing the petals away. Then it was divided into 15 sections, each section with a screen and so on and so forth. This was perhaps the hall of the music for general people, for general nobles and so on and so forth. Then further on the left was the Diwan-i-Khas, which was almost the same as the Diwan-i-Am, but far more beautifully painted inside and close to the hammam. As a matter of fact, this closeness to the hammam has made some of the foreign travelers think that this was the bathroom, which is mistaken. They are, of course, very much mistaken. Tavernier was one of those who said Ghusl Khana. But this is Diwan-i-Khas, where very secret meetings were held at night on the affairs of state. This was also a huge hall. This was also divided into 15 sections. And some people thought that it was meant to be a rival to Rang Mahal, but it was not so. On the front of it, after the luxurious hammam of 2 stories with hot and cold water rooms and so on and so forth, the pipes bringing the hot water, one finds a mosque built by Aurangzeb. But that mosque is not like that of the mosque of Moti Masjid of Shah Jahan. Now, in front of the Lahore gate outside, there was a small hillock on which the Jama Masjid was erected by Shah Jahan. This was perhaps the biggest mosque of the Mughal Empire. and it has the steps built of red sandstone on a square form, and with towers, a very big tower of various stages with water tank and so on. The hall inside is very wide, 200 feet wide, and there was a mihrab as usual there. The Jama Masjid became one of the important arenas during the mutiny. The British first came and attacked it, and they were repulsed there on the 12th of September. The climax of perhaps of the Mughal architecture is Taj Mahal. And to discuss Taj Mahal, one would need to discuss a little bit of its history. Shah Jahan married Mumtaz Mahal in 1613. She died in 1631 at Burhanpur, where Aurangzeb was staying at the moment. And from there, the body was taken in December 1631 to Agra, and it was kept in a small building on the northeast side of Taj Mahal's garden. In 1631, Taj Mahal building was beginning. It was being constructed. One of the French travelers, Jean-Baptiste Tavernier, has seen the beginning and has mentioned it. There is a controversy which has been raised in recent days. It has been stated by some that this was a Hindu building because a petal, a lotus, had been found in terracotta. Actually, we have the farmans and other documents of Shah Jahan, which are preserved in the museum of Taj Mahal. It says that this was the building and land of Raja Man Singh of Akbar, of Jaipur, and Shah Jahan purchased this land and the building, his house, from his grandson Raja Jai Singh in exchange of 4 houses and land at Agra. So there is no question of any temple there. It was a Hindu building as such. There is also another controversy. The controversy is Father Sebastian Manrique, the father figure who wrote excellent diaries of his travel, stated that this was built by, at least designed by, an Italian architect, Geronimo Veronio. But now it is known that this was designed and built by Ustad Hamid, who built the Red Fort at Agra. It's the same man, because from the diary of his son, as well as from his letter, this has been found. So therefore both the controversies are at rest at the moment. Taj Mahal is naturally considered one of the wonders of the world, built entirely on marble, set on a beautiful garden on the northern side of the bank of the Jamuna river, surrounded by a huge wall. What people don't see is that from the Jamuna itself, the river itself, by the means of Persian wheel, the water is carried into the western wall of Taj Mahal. And the western wall has inside the pipes laid down on stone, totally on stone, that carried it to the end of the garden, on the northern end of the garden, from where it rushes down into the garden itself. And then it begins to circulate. And then it goes and falls into the river again. The same principle that the Mughals had used so many times in their mausoleums and other buildings. The outside the surrounding wall on the northern side, in those days, there was a huge chalk or square where there were stables. Now, of course, there were the parking cars. And then there are the markets which are still there. Now, Taj Mahal, as we all know, is one of excellent balance and light. Its main feature is its lightness and the balance of the four minarets that comes entirely built of marble. The inside, the tomb, is a very small one, and almost like the sanctuary of Egyptian pyramids. And in this, there are two tombs. Shah Jahan was entombed there also. And it was something like there is a similarity between this one and the tomb of Humayun. The hall, then on the top there were domes, and there were empty spaces in between. On all sides there were rooms open, arch doors, all open. One can enter from any side, anywhere. From the garden, one has to go a little bit up on the marble stairs to see. But actually, the actual tomb was 40 feet down below. But that people perhaps do not know most of the time. Now, Taj Mahal is one of the most beautiful buildings for another reason. Its marble is highly ornamented with pietra dura. That is the usual ornamentation that has been done in Itmad-ud-Dawla, for which I said that Itmad-ud-Dawla was the predecessor. And Taj Mahal has one beautiful feature is that its marble takes different colors during different times. In fading light, it takes the color of a rose in the sunset. In the dark sky, when the sky is dark, it looks as if it is flowing into the sky. After that, after Shah Jahan's Taj Mahal, Aurangzeb tried to have one, a similar one, in Aurangabad for his wife, but it was a small one. The domes are suppressed, the top floors are suppressed. It was a ridiculous imitation of Taj Mahal, showing the decadence of the Mughals. The Mughal Empire was at its crisis, one could see, at least from the mausoleum that Aurangzeb tried to build. Now I will end this by giving a Persian couplet, of course in English, of Amir Khusro, which is inscribed in the Diwan-i-Khas itself. Agar firdausi barruye zamin ast, agar firdausi barruye zamin ast, hamin ast, hamin ast, hamin ast. If there is paradise on earth, it is here, it is here, it is here. Thank you.